Hi, my name is Jen Potter, and I am the host of Networking Now. Today, I am joined by Rob of Certissima Technologies. He's decided to come on and talk a little bit about his expertise in the different businesses that he runs, and we have met via networking. Surprise, surprise. So, Rob, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. And if you wanted to just jump right in and tell everyone a little bit about who you are and how we met.
Sure. Uh, I live in Massachusetts, and I've grown up here. I am married, and I've got between my kids from my first marriage and three stepchildren now. I have a total of 10 children. So
Yikes.
that's
Every time you say it, it doesn't feel real.
doesn't feel real, but it sounds real when they're all in the house.
Oh,
But
I bet.
but yeah, and then I've got uh, two children-in-law and one grandchild as well. So a lot of fun, a lot of fun.
That's a full house.
That is a very full house, very full house. And I've got two businesses that I work in. One is Certissima Technologies, and that is a managed services, an IT managed services company. And then the second is Powerful Identity, which is a coaching company. And both are a lot of fun, and both require quite a bit of networking as well. And you and I did meet through networking, and that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been part of the same networking group for quite some time, and so I've really gotten to know a little bit about who you are and what you do, and, it's one of those things where your business is something that I don't necessarily have to always be around, but it's something that's super important. So, you manage IT solutions, and in your world, can you tell a little bit, to our audience what it is that you actually do for Satisma?
Sure. So I'm one of three owners of the company, and my role began as a technical role and has now transitioned mostly into sales. I do a little bit of the tech work and most of the sales and marketing work. And that's, I think, where the networking comes in. I really enjoy that a lot. I love being with people too much to be crawling under a desk or stuck in a server room. But what we do for companies really is everything. If you think about any company, everything that company does, whether their sales department or their distribution department or their manufacturing or their financial, whatever, every department of every company, IT is the base. There's IT is underlying their systems and processes. And so we're basically just keeping them up and running. It's not very sexy. We don't wonder why we don't get invited to parties. We already know, we're the IT people, but we do a really important job, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, I think that that's important to really note, right? Especially, when you're networking and you're explaining to people what it is that you're doing. Because to be honest, again, it's something that I wouldn't have necessarily said, oh, I know exactly what you do. So over time, getting to know you and getting to network with you and listening to, the industries that you service, I feel like it's really helped me to understand why your company is so important. So yes, it's not necessarily always sexy because, to me, I'm like, sounds kind of boring, but it's really not. It's really important. So, definitely not. I know your job's not boring, but it's something that I'm not in, right? So, I think it's really great. And so we met in a networking group called Success Champion Networking, and both of us have been a part of it for quite some time. And how has networking helped to grow your business? And we'll start with the IT business. What is it about the networking that has allowed you to really expand your business and your footprint?
Sure. It's all about who you know. It's all about introductions, and as you well know, and what I'm finding out is that usually the first person that I talk to in a meeting or an introduction from them, the first person I talk to is usually not going to be a customer, and that's fine, or a client. Typically, it's two or three levels away from that, and so really, it's all about meeting a core group of people, figuring out what they need and want, and helping them get it, and then so often making an ask when it's appropriate, and then meeting the next group of people, expanding that network out a level. And usually two or three levels in, I'll find a client, prospective client, and then be able to converse with them.
So I feel, I mean, from a networking standpoint, is there a level of stress that kind of comes with that, with knowing that you have to work multiple levels in order to find that client? Because it almost seems like it's almost more of a niche in order to like get to that actual client.
Um, I don't see it as stress. Some people might, and that's a
It sounds stressful to me.
super fair question. To me, it's more like a 5-year-old at the beach, and dad says, here's a bucket and a shovel. Go see how many starfish you can find. And so it's like, all right, I'm just going to go out and look. And so it's not the finding of the starfish is really really fun, but the going out and looking is also really fun.
I
Uh,
I love that. I love the dad analogy specifically. Like, "Here's the bucket, go find starfish. I have 10 kids, give them all buckets. This is
that's
the only way I'm gonna be able to get through the day." No.
That's right. It's the only way your mom and I are going to be able to sit on the beach for a few minutes. Yeah.
And have a conversation. No, but that it's true, right? Like, I feel like some people look at it as it could be a lot of work. For me personally, we all know I love networking, so I love talking to different people and really making that connection. And for me, when I'm connecting with people, we talked about this before the show even, came on. I'm never trying to actually sell somebody on anything that I'm doing. And it's because just like you, sometimes my client is a little further down that line.
Yeah.
So, really just getting out there, telling people what we're doing, how we're doing it, and it's going to slowly start to build that rapport. And so, relationship building for me, I know is super important. So, I'm going to just naturally assume that's super important for you, especially if you're working on tier two, tier three of that referral base.
It is. It is very much. This is what I'm going to say applies to both the IT business and my coaching business. But really, this is going to sound kind of woo woo, but you can't really sell someone something if you don't care about them, if you don't love them first. I'm not talking about being romantically involved with them. I just mean you've got to have some level of care for that person before you can truly sell them something. Yeah, you can twist their arm and force them into a relationship that may not work, but really sell them and have them want to come back and have an experience. You've got to create a great experience for them and care about them. And so, yes, the networking is just an extension of that. You care about the people you're
Right.
talking to. They may not be your clients, and that's fine, but you're going to help them get something they need, and they're going to help you get something you need in return, and you're going to keep doing that.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I mean, for me personally, I think it's about really caring about the person that you're talking to, getting to build that rapport and that relationship. Because if you don't have like a solid foundation with the relationship that you're building, you're not going to be setting yourself up for success. And I think that's why it's so important to find networking groups that really fit. And so, assuming as you're kind of going through, and you're probably a little bit more particular about the client that you work with, are have you found that there are some networking groups that work better than others? Or do you prefer things like in person or online? What are your thoughts when it comes to like really reaching out and working with different networking groups aside from the one that we do?
You bet. Sure. I've found so I've worked with BNI, if I'm able to share the names of different networking groups. I've worked with SCN, Success Champion networking groups, and then I've also worked with networking groups that didn't have they weren't a franchise or part of a larger nationwide group. They were just small individual groups where people got together and said, "Hey, we should refer business to each other." What I'll just call local referral groups. And the ones that I personally have found to be the most effective were the ones that were where each of the members was B2B, where they were selling to other businesses and not selling to individual clients. Now, again, not putting that down. There are some great groups that I think work with, B2C, and they network and do things together. But I found that network groups that are heavy on the B2C tend to be groups of people that are selling to the room. Uh,
Right.
for me, that doesn't work as well. But for some people that may.
Right. So, but it's also your business, right? So, when it really comes down to it, you're working with ideally your ideal customer based off of what you do, I would assume would be a business, right?
Absolutely.
So, you're not trying to sell to the natural consumer, such as myself, who may need some type of home IT service. So, being in a room full of other business owners just seems to make sense. Where for me, some of my businesses service businesses and some of them serve clients. But it's funny because I prefer to network with business to business, even though most of my clients are service based. So I do find it interesting because you never quite know what type of business someone is looking to sell to, or what type of client, you know what I mean? So
Right.
I do find that really interesting because I mean, you could totally sell to an average person, but are they going to turn around and talk about you to other businesses? Probably not, right? So I think that that's important. And, so when you're part of these networking groups, do you attend a lot in person, or are you still predominantly like online?
They're mostly online, especially since COVID. They're almost exclusively online. I've had a few that I've done in person since COVID, but like chamber meetings, but most are online.
I prefer online these days. And, some people will give me a really hard time. I really love in person meetings. But if I want to go to a 1 hour meeting, I have to say, okay, that's going to be 3 hours of my time. Right. And I feel like in a world of efficiency, how many of those can we actually make happen when we're trying to do a sale? And how much time do we have to actually put into it in order to make it happen? And, in your line of business, doing what you're doing, are you predominantly still remote as well, or do you go to a lot of different like locations for work?
Great question. So our tech team, our service team, is a mix of the two. We do a lot of work remotely, and then we do a lot on site. And we find that clients still do appreciate very much having someone on site. My role is mostly sales, and so I would say it's about a 50-50 mix. I do a lot of the beginning, the marketing and the initial sales work and quoting and things like that. I do very well from home, and lots of Teams and Zoom meetings. However, in the end, getting on site, seeing someone in person, shaking their hand, smiling at them, that is what makes a real difference.
Oh, I definitely think so. And, just as long as there's some point of contact, I feel like it makes it, it seals the deal. But because I do a lot of hybrid work as well. And, just knowing that we can do a lot of our work from the computer, from our home, from a remote access type of standpoint, I feel like it's really made such a huge difference, both, in the networking world and the real world. And I found since COVID, I, love being online. Like, I love just being able to sit down and say, okay, I have this meeting. It's 1 hour long. When we're recording for the show, I get to say, okay, this is great. We get to record, and then I can get up and I can go cook dinner. So
Right.
it's great. And I feel like you're just as efficient. Some people beg to differ and say, I prefer to be more in person. But if you can get that sale online and then be able to go in person and kind of seal the deal, I feel like, hey, it's also a win, spend
Yeah.
a little less time in person. So I love that. I think that that's awesome. And I was going to also ask, we did slowly start to talk a little bit about your other business. So you not only have this IT business that you're using or that you have, but then you also have this other business. And before we cut to break, I want you to tell us a little bit about what this business is. And then when we come back, we're going to dive right into it.
Sure. It's a coaching business. I'm a certified relationship and life coach, and I love teaching people how to create safe emotional spaces in all kinds of relationships, whether it's romantic or parent child relationships or friend relationships or business relationships.
And I love that. And so when we come back, we're going to dive into a little bit about what you do for your coaching business, how it ties into your IT business and brings everything together. So I'm Jen. I am the host of Networking Now, and we'll be right back.